Okay, here's our updated version of my four tote rainwater system. I've started to clean the back up to get the pad ready and everything. But in this setup, if you look, I've got a 3-pipe system for a flush system. This is going to come down from the roof, and these are 3 feet long. Okay? And I do have a leaf catcher above this. This is going to empty into the lid, is what that's going to do. Now, on every single tote, I have this thing, which is a stainless steel screen that allows for air to get in. So basically, it comes out, I got to drill a hole, it comes out and goes around. So that way, if it rains, it keeps the rain out. Now, this also keeps the mosquitoes, the bugs, they can't get in. Now, you'll see a lot of people on YouTube will say, just loosen the lid. That's actually not a good idea. You want to take the lid and tighten it down. And this will allow air to go in and escape. It's kind of an upgrade to the totes, but, you know, it runs about an extra $40. Now, over here, this is an inline, kind of like a pump. It's got a stainless steel mesh that I'm going to put in about 3/4 of a way down. And it's going to connect to a 1-inch pipe, and that's going to come up through the lid. Lid's going to be tightened down. And then this is going to go back to the house into the bathroom. Now, with this, it doesn't matter how much filtering you do, you're always going to get something in the bottom of your totes. So, you get gravel, you get sand, you get all kinds of things. At the same time, there may be things floating on top. Pollen, stuff like this. And we do get a lot of pollen in Tennessee. So, by running this down 3/4 of a way in the tote, I'm guaranteed to get the cleanest water I can get. So, that's very important. Now, down here with the manifold, the big pipe here, I took this down to a 3-inch because it's cheaper. And the blue shutoff valves you're seeing here are the totes shutoff valves. So there are no shutoff valves on this thing all the way down, except down here where the hose is. Okay? And I'll probably put a ball shutoff here. So basically, I can clear the whole system. Now, you'll notice if something goes wrong with a tote, I can't get access to it. All these are glued. So I can shut the water off for a tote. So let's say something happens between tote 3 and tote 4. I could shut them both off. I could even shut these off. And then just cut it with the hacksaw. Fix whatever has to be fixed. Re-glue it. And then turn them back on. So that's kind of the way I'm going because it does save quite a bit of money. When you start adding all these U-joints and stuff where you have access, and you start getting into overkill. And I doubt very much anything's going to happen to this. So the whole idea is that literally I'm saving like $300. This whole setup now is approximately about $750 with the piping, the filters, and everything else I'm running. Now at the back end here, I'm going to add, you know, a point for the hose. In case I want to water some fruit trees or a garden or something like that. There's going to be almost no pressure there. Fill up a pail or whatever I need to do there. Now, on tote 4, I've added an overflow. Now, a lot of people, and that's this pipe here coming down to a screen here. A lot of people will add an overflow that comes out of the top and then goes over and goes down. I didn't like that idea because, well, one, now you got to tighten that lid up because the water has to rise, go through the pipe, go through the elbow, and come down. I didn't think or like the way that was designed. I figured that was a bad design. Where this design is, I drew a hole in the side of the tote. and then I attach like a 2-inch PVC coming down. Now at the same time I had a screen on the other end, and the point of that is to keep mice and animals, because just because you got this overflow here, mice can still get up in here, and the next thing you'll have dead mice floating around inside your water. So this is very important, and these are pretty inexpensive. I see them all over Amazon from $8 to $30. So pick and choose your poison. Now this particular filter thing I'm adding here for air, I've added an extra elbow, and it goes up and around, is what it does. These are about $10 a piece, so I'm adding about $40 more to the system, so they all have their own air, is what I'm doing. So this is a pretty, pretty complicated system when you start looking at everything. But the whole idea here is to keep the water as clean as possible and make sure no bugs, no flies, nothing gets inside this system. That's the whole idea. And as long as everything's sealed up, so with this situation here, I can crank these lids down now nice and tight, and we're good to go. Now, a lot of people will turn around, I've seen on YouTube, they'll wrap them in black plastic. I don't know if they're doing that because it's cheaper. That's not making sense to me, because on top of the black plastic, I see a lot of water sitting there. And when you got sitting water, that breeds mosquitoes like crazy. And that's not what you want. Now, I painted my totes, and the water just runs off. So to me, that seems to be a better way to go. Now, maybe paint's more expensive, because you figure a can of paint's $10. So on average, so you might need 2 cans per tote. I don't know, maybe it is more expensive to paint them. But I've already got 3 painted, so it's not a big deal. I might take a can of black paint and touch it up a little bit for anything that has marks on them. But ideally, this system's perfect now. Now, this pipe that's coming out of tote 2 does not connect to the pipe here. Okay, it just kind of looks like that. ChatGPT has a hard time with this pipe. This is a 1-inch pipe that goes through the lid, so that way it has some connections to put there. And then it comes down and it connects to a screen, is what that does. This pipe actually runs to the house, which connects to the pump. So now it's going to suck the water 3/4 of the way down. Now, on average, where I am at, we get approximately 4 inches or more of rain for about 6 or 7 months. And then we get, 2 inches or so, a little less. Now, with this idea in mind, literally the way my roof is sloped, and I've done the math, I only need 2 inches of rain to fill all 4 totes. That's all I need. So, and like I said, we get 4 inches here in Tennessee in the higher months. So basically, if this ain't enough, I can add 2 more totes to this setup. And I do have room to expand, is what I have. Now, I have certain concerns. I am putting these on a concrete pad where I used to have a kennel, is what I'm doing. Now, it's only 4 inches thick. It's been there over been there for over 10 years. I've taken all the fencing down today, and there's no cracks that I can see. Now, this is a lot of weight, so I don't know what's going to happen when I put this down, if it's going to start cracking that. 4 inches may not be thick enough, but it has been there a long time, and it's a very, very hard ground. So I might be okay, and I'm crossing my fingers, because that gives it a really nice look and setup, is what it does now. So to give you a final rundown, these blue things you see on top, this is to allow air in and out, and I can tighten the caps down. This is a 3 system for flushing. So the water comes down, fills this pipe, then goes across, fills this pipe, then goes across, fills this pipe, and then the water comes into tote 1. This system here is because if there's pollen on the roof, insects, stuff like that, hopefully we get most of that clean. Down here we'll drill a little pinhole with a small drill bit, so that way it slowly drips. and the water doesn't stay in it waiting for the next rain. Also has a screw cap where I can pull it off and really clean it out. These will be 3 feet long. And I'm not sure. They might mount to the house, or I might make something to mount them in the way the picture is. I won't know until I start playing with it. Now, what I could do with Tote 1 to make it even better, okay, instead of having this pipe here, because I am going to have a screen here in the lid that you buy, they're like $10, or you could use pantyhose, and you could rig something up like that as like an extra filter. So what happens is now the water just pours out of here. So that's kind of stirring everything up. A really better way to do this is I run a pipe a little further down, like again 3/4 of a way, put an elbow on it and stick it out a little bit, and then drill a whole bunch of holes in the side. So that way the water kind of drizzles in. It doesn't fall in like a fish aquarium going nuts, like a water flow. I might do that yet. I'm not sure. But the whole idea of that is if you got sediment on the bottom and you got this pipe coming down and it goes across, then it's not stirring that sediment up. So you're keeping your water as clean as possible. By having the manifold across, it keeps all the water the same level in all the totes. So if all the totes are full and one goes halfway down, then they'll probably go down a little bit and then they all level out because they're all using the water from everyone. Tote number 2 is a project for another day, but this is going to be added inside the tote to where I've got a stainless steel screen at the bottom and it only goes 3/4 of the way down, which comes up with a 1-inch pipe, which goes to the house, which will go to a pump. That allows me to guarantee to get the cleanest water because it's not taking water from the top or the bottom. So this is not very expensive to do, but kind of a must if you're going to run a pump system. When we move over to Tote 3, nothing's going on here except for that filter for air. That's it. That's the only thing that's going on here. We move over to Tote 4. Again, that has the air, but this is our outlet now to where if the tote fills up too much. So we get a big downpour, we get 6 inches. All these totes fill up in a matter of minutes. And what happens is the water comes up to wherever I put this pipe, and now it drains out. So now your totes aren't exploding or whatever. Now, a lot of people, like I said, will take this and put it through the lid and then come up and out. I don't really agree with that because then the water will come out from the lid. It doesn't seem like a very good sealed system to me. And that seems kind of backwards. You kind of want to stop the level when it gets so high and then have it come out. And you want to make sure you have a screen here so you don't get mice or anything coming inside. So I think this is my final product of what my goal is and what I'm going to be working for. And like I said, I've already started cleaning up the back. And when I started doing that, I ended up looking at my porch and I was like, God, that porch is falling apart. I may tear the porch down too. I got to put up beef troughs, tear the porch down, put this system in. There's quite a bit of work. If you see my videos, you can see there's quite a bit of work there. And then I got a hole under the house too that I need to plug up. And I do want to run heat tape underneath the house to prevent my pipes from freezing this year. So, and get out, there's a lot of work that I'm doing. And the nice thing about my house is years ago, I had to install like a vinyl under the house. And it was pretty expensive to do, but the guy suggested it. And we put this vinyl under the house. It spreads out like a big rug. So when you crawl under the house, it's very nice. You know, it's not, you're kind of wiggling around the pipes and stuff, but it's not very uncomfortable under there. So that's the nice thing about it, because I will be climbing underneath the house. There's no two ways about it. When I finally come to the point where I run this pipe directly to the house, and then I hook up a pump, and then I hook up a 100 micron filter system to it, which in turn goes into the pump, and then out of the pump I go a 20 micron, a 0.5 micron, and then a charcoal, and all that, which basically you're almost making drinking water. Well, I'm going to run a PEX pipe from the pump all the way down to the front of the house where the washer is. And that's going to go under the house. So I'm going to have to climb under the house to do that. And I want I guess a three-way switch. I'm not sure what you call it. But I'll turn it one way and I'll have city water going to the toilet. I'll have city water going to the wash machine. I'll turn it to the other way and then boom, the totes kick in. So now the totes fill up the toilet and the totes fill up the wash machine. And that entire system does everything except the hot water heater and the shower system. Something I may look at later, but I'm just kind of... This is getting pretty complicated what I've done so far. So I'm kind of just feeling my way as I go. And ChatGPT has made a big difference, but it's been very, very frustrating. You know, I had to save all my images. I probably got, I don't know, 400 of them as I was designing this because it would just screw them up. All of a sudden, it would only have one pipe, and then it would have a pipe going over here, and then it would have pipes going across the top, and I was like, what are you doing? I mean, it was getting all confused. Then it added 6 pipes over here, and I was like, there's only supposed to be 3. Oh, I'm sorry, let me redo that. Well, you got to sit there for 5 minutes while it generates this image. It doesn't do it instantly. So that takes time. So you had to make sure I saved the photos. And then what happened was when it messed everything up, and it did, it messed everything up on this screen cap I wanted to put on here. And it just messed it up everything. I had to upload an old photo and tell it specifically, just do this. And that was it. And then I finally got what I liked here. The arrows were tricky to add. Okay? They were tricky to add. And, but other than that, I didn't add all this other stuff. It did that, you know, a 3-inch manifold, air screens in the corner, side flow on tote number 4, which is this to exhaust if too much water's in there. And then you got some information down here about it. You know, basic information, how it works. See, it says here, all lids tight, clean, secure, keeps out debris. Screens, vents by corners, low profile and protected. Easy to drain, maintain, and expand. Built to last, collect, clean. I mean, it put all this in there. I didn't. You know, all this was basically my idea of how I was building this. You know, and the stainless steel filters here at the top, it was suggesting I buy some other one that was like, I think they were $35 each. It seemed like ChatGPT was always suggesting the most expensive things, is what I found. Which I thought was quite interesting. I don't know if they get a kickback from it or, you know, because a lot of times I'd say just give me the link so I could go look. But I found, once I found what ChatGPT was talking about, then I could start going and researching and looking deeper into Amazon. You know, and then I found these. And I was like, well, they're cheaper. When they got a elbow on them, that would be much easier to put in. And I uploaded the picture and I said, what about these? And ChatGPT says, oh, that's perfect. That's amazing what you found there. I says, but are the stainless steel holes too big? Like, am I going to let the mosquitoes in? Oh, no. There's not enough room for that. Because I uploaded the image. You know, what I found strange was when I uploaded a picture of the back of my house to ChatGPT, it literally could estimate how much rain I was going to get. And that just blew my mind just by looking at a picture. So that program does do a lot, but it does lack things. And you don't need the expensive side of GPT where they charge like $20 a month. I've only got the one that charges $7 or whatever. Now you do get the odd little square ad at the bottom, which really is no big deal, but you're not cut off. So you really don't need the big expensive one. I mean, I have put through a lot of requests for developing images over and over. So this, I think, is what I'm finally going to settle on. And I think it's a nice look. This is about 700 $100 to $850 in total in parts to complete this complete system. And again, if you look around for deals, you know, Home Depot, Lowe's, and you know what you're building, and you keep a paper in your pocket, and when you walk in the store, oh, so I got those on sale, I'll grab those now. This is not a system I'm going to design in 1 week. I could, but it's not. You know, first I want to put my totes in place, and then I want to go sit on my lawn chair and sit there and look at them and take this picture and print it off and think about what I'm doing. And I do this as I turn all this into my head. Where am I going to put my flush system? Is this going to sit against the house? Is it going to sit beside the totes? Am I going to put it on its own 3/4 inch piece of plywood before I put it there? I don't know. And this is a system that's going to take time. Now, at the same time, I got to put some E-troughs in. I don't think that's going to be very expensive. Maybe a couple hundred, maybe under that. And I'm going to run a 6-inch eave trough because 5-inch, you know, the way the rain comes off my roof is just crazy fast. So I think 6-inch is probably going to be the best way. And I've never put in eave troughs in my life, ever. So I've watched, I don't know, 40 videos on YouTube on how to do it. Looks pretty easy. Doesn't look that hard. So I think I'll be able to do it. And I'm not going up too high in my house, so I should be okay. But first I'll get some totes laid out. I'll buy some parts here and there. I've already bought the screws for the eave troughing. I've already got that coming in a couple days, so I got that taken care of. And I'll buy some small pieces here and there and slowly put it in the box. And then I'll probably start with the manifold on the bottom. You know, it seems like a more affordable way to go. I'm not going to glue it or anything until I got the 4th tote and everything perfectly lined up. And then I'll move over to the flush system, which is this here. And I'll work on that section separate. Then I guess I'll come back to here. These screen things, I'll have them way before. That'll be an easy screw in. Now, I've seen people selling these so-called things that show you the level of the water in your tote. And every one I've seen had wicked bad reviews. And they were paying like $50, $60 for them. I was like, that's just crazy money. You know, I got to buy another tote and then I got to paint it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run some painter's tape down it and leave maybe 1/2 inch going all the way down. And I'll cover that up. And then I'll paint the tote. And then when I pull off the painter's tape, that white tote will still be there. So I'll be able to see how high that tote is. I'll probably do it in 2 places. So that way if I'm looking at it in 2 angles, I can actually see how much water's in there. So this system seems pretty cool. And compared to a lot of systems I've seen on YouTube, even systems that were 12 years ago, these guys had their pipes going all over the place. It looked like a spaghetti mess. But then, of course, they didn't have ChatGPT. They couldn't draw the pictures. They couldn't change things. I mean, this was quite a process, is what it was. Now, hopefully, when I piece all this together and start getting it organized and hope my 4-inch concrete pad doesn't break because of the weight of the water, hopefully when I put all this together, it works the way it's supposed to. Now, if something goes wrong where my pad breaks, then that's going to be a whole new ballgame, is what it is. But I'll worry about that when the time comes. This is what I'll do for now. And I can't expand this to more totes. But I'm going to run 4 and see if this works okay. See if it keeps up with the wash machine. It'll keep up with the toilet with no problem. And that should be pretty awesome. Now, the nice thing about this whole system, okay, I can take it one step further, right? Not only turn it into drinking water, but I can take it a step further and change it into solar. So literally, you'd be running a couple big solar panels that you face south. You would have a pump that runs off solar. And now some batteries. You're probably into another $800 to change it into solar. So this system would probably be about a $2,000 system to do it with solar. And now you would be amazingly set up for water. So that's pretty impressive. But I think this is my final set. Now I got to start buying stuff and I got to get organized. But this is the route I go as I do things. Don't expect videos very quickly. But I will try to make a playlist of this and try to build on it. And maybe it'll help somebody else to have an idea and take it a step further for them. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.